No, I don't wanna play no games. No, I don't wanna hear your promises. You do you and I'll do me. That's just the way it is.
Boom.
Biddly, 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 but yes, yo. Here we go. There ain't nobody down round here. You know what time it is. Get that badger in and on and over here. We had to move back to get his greatness in. We're gonna have a little bit of fun today, as I think the midweek sort of warrants it. Wednesday's not always the best day for everybody, sort of in between the week, sort of stuck. But we're waiting for the weekend, the big game against Wolves, obviously. I want to make a case for my best mate. There ain't no doubt about it. I think we've seen enough from our midfield now, and overall, not of the squad, because I think, there's like your Okafors and stuff that need to come slightly, more into form, need a little bit more time. DCL needs to get up to speed and stuff. But I want to make my case for Sean Longstaff being the best midfielder at the club. I don't want anybody to tell me why he's not. I think we've already seen enough from each player. The whole point that I was making at the start of the season is the bloke is ready. He comes ready. He's not... There's no embedding. There's no need to get him in the side. He can come straight into the side. He's a Premier League footballer. He has been for the past 7 years or whatever it is at Newcastle. We got him for £12 million from Newcastle, which honestly at the time I thought was cheap. He's got that Premier League pedigree, not like the dog, but he is dogged in there. So yeah, loads of top flight experience. 27 years old, coming into the prime of his life. As much as Andy Rowe reckons that we don't need 27-year-olds, we need like 23-year-olds that have got promise in the future. We need a balance, and 27-year-old players quite literally are coming into the prime of their life. So we'll get 3 solid years out of Longstaff, I believe, before we see any sort of tailoring off, obviously, other than a terrible injury, which he has not been known to be injury-prone over his career. Touch wood, that remains the same. He's obviously, when people talk about the engine room, he's a massive part of that, and he works so hard. He gets forward, he gets back, he's in tackles, plays easy balls, he's plenty tenacious, he's versatile. I think he can play in the holding role. I don't particularly want him in the holding role. I like Ampadu or Gruev being in that holding role and letting him, Stack or Tanaka, be in the 8, as it were, in the 4-3-3. But I also think if we change formation, I think he can easily slot into that as well. So he is, for me, undroppable. We've got a mix of quality, haven't we, in midfield? Longstaff's got 175 top flight appearances over 7 seasons at Newcastle, which isn't just nonsensical games. It's not just throwing him on when they're 3-0 up and stuff. He's played a massive part in there in both building them. But to be fair with Longstaff, he's been in the dogged, rough relegation battle, and he's also been in the Champions League winning games and scoring decisive goals, and was a massive part of ending their 70-year drought for a trophy. Champions League games, I think he played 5 Champions League games. Again, people would say that that's not a great deal of Champions League games, but how many games did Newcastle, when they got in the Champions League, how many games did they even play? And, they got knocked out, I think, the first year. Or I can't. Regardless, 5 years. I don't know. I'm not a Newcastle expert. If you are, let me know. But 5 Champions League outings in one season is pretty good going for me. We've obviously got Ilya Gruev, who's got absolutely no Premier League experience. Has he had 3 games now since he joined? Obviously, he came to us in the Championship. That's not really his fault, but he's more of the deep lying midfielder, isn't he? Ethan Ampadu, who's had 28 games. He's versatile, energetic. I love Ethan Ampadu, to be perfectly honest, but he's more, again, in the holding role, which is not exactly what we're asking of Longstaff, in my opinion. But I think if push came to shove, I mean, people seem to keep saying that Stack's more of a holding midfielder or a central midfielder traditionally. I know I'm not allowed to talk about traditional football, but there was a day when, the holding midfielder would play with another central midfielder, and he would just be the one that never really got forward, but he still played centre midfield. But you're not allowed to say that anymore. I understand I got a good old telling off the other day on Joe's show for being a dinosaur, for suggesting that you can still play centre midfield and be in the holding role, really. And when you're on the ball, all 3 you get forward, don't you? Ampadu, as much as he is the holding midfielder of the 3, when we're not on the ball, when we are on the ball, we're talking 5 yards behind. I know 5 yards make a difference, but 5 yards from being a 4 to a 6 to an 8 to a 10, that accumulates over about 15 yards. It seems a little bit wild to me. I'm aware that there's positions for certain players, is what it is. Obviously, it's Tanaka's first season. He's already got injured. very technically good. Some question marks among the channel's fans, if you can call them fans, or the channel's viewers. Would be hesitant to call them a fan unless you hit that like button and subscribe and tell 10 men to tell 10 men. Obviously, a few people a bit skeptical about his mentality with him beefing and stuff towards the end of the season, but he never let the side down during the season. I know there've been a couple of errors or whatever, but that comes with this. You always know when you've got a decent player on your hand when they make a mistake, and it's like it's like a shock when he had a poor game. I can't remember who it was against, but I remember him giving the ball away a couple of times in deep areas. Longstaff gave the ball away at the weekend at Wolves, and it were like, it's shocking because he plays things short. He very rarely makes mistakes. So I think Tanaka's a valuable piece of the squad. Anton Stack, the same thing really. It's his first season and he's going to need time to bed in. Now, we spent a lot more money on Stack than we did to Longstaff. I mean, it was best part of 20 million for Stack. 12 million for Longstaff. And I said at the time, Longstaff is the best midfielder at the club, and I still maintain that. Anton Stack, however, could have a bigger and better ceiling. We do not know as of yet. But from what I've seen of the first few games, we get a bit bogged down in cameos, like I said yesterday. In general, like, Kevin comes on and changes the game at Fulham, and then everybody thinks Kevin's the best player that you'll watch until he gets back to our place, and he'll probably be shit by then. It takes a little bit of time that you get that initial sort of spunk, that initial bump, that sniff packet when you first come into a club and you want to perform, and you're whipping balls in and that. And then as the season progresses, even as early as we are now, a little bit of a dip in form, or if it's not quite going your way, or the group of players find out that the ball's safer with Longstaff or whatever. And that's not a diss to Stack. I just mean the game, the club the team can be very geared up to giving you the ball in spaces. And then when it decides that it's not and it moves on from you, it's very hard to get back into the game. And if that's happened, like it happened to James when we had Somerville, like James got plenty of the ball, and then it got to a point where we're all Somerville now. Just give it to Somerville. He will change the game. He will change the game. So you need to bear that in mind a little bit. But I think Anton Stack is just as capable, if not more. I mean, I think, to be honest, Longstaff's ball playing is the most underrated part of his game. I think this idea that he's not good on ball is absolutely ridiculous. He seems really calm on ball to me. Takes one touch, lays it off, passes. He's got a good range of passes. We do look strong defensively, as we know, as we're not getting any goals. But we talk about midfielders. We talk about our midfielders like they've been historically getting plenty of goals, and we know for a fact. I know Tanaka got a couple last year, but we've not. That's been a problem under Farke's reign rather. When it rains, it pours. That's been a problem since he got here, isn't it? So we are reliant on the forwards to get goals, and when they're not, this is where we get it. This is where the problems come in. But he averages 2.1 tackles per 90 minutes over his career, which is wild. And he does have plenty of efficient involvement going forward, as I say, without overcomplicating stuff. I think he'll get goals. I think it's really unfortunate he hit the bar at the weekend. That is shit as a shit does. That's one of them things. I personally think it really is Ampadu and Longstaff. And I think Ampadu's been excellent, and I think just to break stuff up, be a nightmare in there as the holding midfielder, I think Ampadu's the perfect fit for that. And then I really do think it's between, and then add whoever you want. I would still go with Stack at the moment, but if Tanaka's back, I've got absolutely no problem with it being that way around. Some people saying that Stack preferred it with Tanaka. We haven't really had the opportunity to see Longstaff with Tanaka properly, so I would like to see that myself. I think Tanaka would thrive in that also. I just think my man Longstaff, my best mate, is undroppable. What are your thoughts? Going into the weekend, it'd be good if we could have Tanaka back, obviously just as a bench option, because it does switch it up. Obviously, we were a little bit light in there at the weekend, which didn't seem to matter because we were so strong and solid. I think if Longstaff could get off the mark, I also think if he plays in there with Tanaka, he might find himself in slightly different positions, as Tanaka is more of a ball player midfielder. I don't want anybody to take this the wrong way about Tanaka, because I don't think it's true. But we do lose a little bit of physicality when he's in the three. even though the bloke's a physical player. He gets about and he's tenacious as well, and he will run about. He'll put a shift in. But in terms of absolute strength, I don't think he's on the level of Longstaff and Stack or Ampadu. That being said, that doesn't mean I think Tanaka's a weak footballer, because he's certainly not. I think he's got plenty of beans, plenty of strength. Just we do, if we're gonna sort of tally it up, Stack is probably the strongest. Tanaka's probably the weakest in terms of strength, even though they're all right up there, 7 to 9, aren't they? You know, and then I think Longstaff's in the middle of each player that we have. Every single midfielder we have at the club, I think Longstaff, you know, when they do that circle and it's all like a hexagon or whatever it is, and the blue pulls out on Champ Manager and it shows you, like, it rates them all. I think Longstaff is as much as the circle as you can get. And that's why we think he's undroppable. What do you think? My man Longstaff in this side gets results, dogged when we need to, gets forward when we need to, grabs us a good goal. Nobody do it how he does it. Longstaff is my best mate. Now I'm off to Somerset. Long drive down to Somerset. I'll be back up tomorrow afternoon for the underlap. So join me on the underlap. I'm going to aim for 8 o'clock. It might be 9 o'clock. If you could all stay up for me, it'd be much appreciated. Let's get this going, baby. Let's get some positive energy going into the weekend. Let's go smash Wolves up. I'm trying to get 2 tickets. If anybody knows anybody that can get me 2 away tickets, let me know. I will snap your hand off. Not literally, just metaphorically. I will snap your hand off because I really want to go to that game. Shit is as shit does. 3 p.m. kickoff. Bish, bash, bosh, bang.
I don't wanna play no games. No, I don't wanna play no games. No, I don't wanna hear your promises. You do you and I'll do me. That's just the way it is.
Boom.